On November 24, 1971, a man wearing a dark suit, a white shirt, and a black tie bought a one-way ticket for $20. Within hours, he would force a commercial airline to hand over $200,000 in cash, open the rear stairs of a passenger jet in midair, and jump into a freezing storm over the Pacific Northwest. He used the name Dan Cooper, though a media error soon rebranded him as D.B. Cooper. Over 5 decades later, nobody knows who he actually was. He left investigators without a body, without a true name, and with an escape so improbable it continues to frustrate the FBI today. Northwest Orient Flight 305 was a routine, short trip from Portland to Seattle on the day before Thanksgiving. The terminal was packed with holiday travelers. Cooper boarded the Boeing 727 and took a seat near the back. Flight attendants recalled a polite, middle-aged man who ordered a bourbon, lit a cigarette, and blended in perfectly with the rest of the cabin. Once in the air, he handed a note to flight attendant Florence Schaffner. Thinking it was a flirtatious message or a phone number, she dropped it unread into her purse. Cooper leaned in and quietly told her she should look at it. He then opened his briefcase just enough to reveal a battery, wires, and red cylinders. Whether the device inside the briefcase could actually detonate remains a mystery, but in that moment, it did not matter. The threat was credible, and the hijacking had begun. Cooper handed over his terms, $200,000 in $20 bills, and 4 parachutes. Investigators suspect the demand for 4 parachutes was a calculated move. By asking for multiple rigs, Cooper implied he might force hostages to jump with him, deterring authorities from deliberately supplying faulty equipment. While Flight 305 circled Seattle in a holding pattern, the passengers assumed they were experiencing a mechanical delay. On the ground, the airline and the FBI were scrambling to gather the cash and locate the parachutes. The plane landed, and Cooper's demands were brought aboard. In return, he allowed all 36 civilian passengers to disembark. By clearing the cabin, he removed the leverage authorities had over him. He was now alone in the back of the aircraft with a captive flight crew, ready to dictate his escape. Cooper ordered the pilots to fly south toward Mexico City. He dictated strict conditions. The plane had to stay at a low altitude, maintain a slow speed, and keep the landing gear down. He chose this flight because of the aircraft. The Boeing 727 featured rear stairs that lowered from the tail section while airborne. To open those doors against outside air resistance, the cabin had to remain unpressurized. Cooper's low-altitude instructions accounted for this exact requirement. At roughly 8 o'clock that same evening, the flight crew noticed a sudden pressure change. Cooper had opened the aft stairs into heavy rain, high winds, and freezing temperatures. Carrying a bag of heavy cash and dressed in a business suit, he stepped off the edge of a commercial jet into a pitch-black void over the wilderness. The FBI launched an immediate search operation known as NORJAC. Agents scoured the estimated drop zones, but found nothing. No body, no parachute, and no money. Over the following decades, authorities investigated more than 100 suspects based on eyewitness accounts, yet none proved to be the man from Flight 305. Almost 9 years later, a young boy digging in the sand near the Columbia River uncovered 3 deteriorated bundles of cash, totaling $5,800. The serial numbers on the weathered $20 bills were a perfect match to the ransom money. Instead of solving the case, the discovery confused it further. The location was miles away from the assumed jump area, leaving investigators to debate whether the river carried the money there or if someone buried it by hand. A compelling argument exists for Cooper's survival. He operated with deep composure, demonstrating an expert understanding of the aircraft's capabilities and successfully managing a highly technical mid-air exit. However, the environment was overwhelmingly lethal. He jumped blind into freezing rain and dense forest at night, weighed down by heavy bundles of cash. There are also serious doubts about his gear. Aviation experts question whether the civilian and military parachutes he was given were adequate for a blind jump in those severe weather conditions. In 2016, after 45 years of dead ends, the FBI officially closed the active investigation, citing a lack of credible leads and definitive identification. D.B. Cooper executed the perfect vanishing act. He leaves behind an empty case file, forcing us to wonder if he was a criminal mastermind who pulled off the impossible, or a man who made a fatal miscalculation in the dark.